welcome to this update video for our bolt action battle reports. As you've seen in the title, 2 improvements that we hope to make for our games going forwards, and hopefully these improvements will mean an even better viewing experience, more fun, more narrative for our games. So first is to do with terrain, second is to do with the armies and units that we use in our games. So the first I'll reveal to you here and see what you think, but this has come from has been inspired by the Model Railway crowd. They are excellent in their community for terrain building. Much inspiration and ideas have come from them for the terrain that we have on the channel. As you can see here, we've set up for fighting across France in 1940s, the invasion of France. So that's going to be Blitzkrieg Germans, British Expeditionary Force, French, which I'm working on at the moment. It's just a unit of those infantry just there. But when we're filming our games, this is the usual view that we give you. And I haven't really been able to tilt the camera up too much because in the background is just walls, radiators, accessories and so on. There's not too much to look at in that regard. But taking inspiration from the Model Railway community, I've brought in a backdrop. And so when I tilt the camera up, I can now go high with the camera and I can give you a background. It just really helps to set a better perspective in our games. Instead of, I'll show you the difference again. So if I go down, that's the usual view that we would give you. And I've always felt that your eyes want to look up and to see the horizon, but we've been unable to give that to you because the background's not that great to look at. But with these backdrop boards, now we can give you a tilted up view and hopefully something that looks so much more realistic. So a proper skyline and a horizon in the distance. And that is so much more realistic and hopefully much more visually appealing. So I'm going to move around this board here and I'm going to show you a few more angles just to show you what a difference it makes. So we are now looking at lengthways up the board, so from one end to the other. And I'll tilt the camera up. And about there was the view that we were giving you previously. But now if I tilt up further, you start to get the horizon and distance. It just makes such a difference, and even the skyline coming in there as well. I think that's so much more realistic, and it's a much more pleasant camera angle for you to view our games. And the great thing about it, it's not too much of a hindrance in our games. This back board across here, the main one, we don't need that end of the board so much. Behind there, I'm not going to show it to you, but behind there's a lot of counters and rule books and so on. So not that great to look at. So instead you've got this as a great backdrop. It really sets us up for some nice views, as we've seen coming up the table from this direction. And it's the left-hand flank. We don't use it too much. We've played a game on here already. It hasn't really affected trying to draw line of sight and so on. And then that back board across there, along most of the length of the opposing player's side, so Aaron or Mike around that side, that board is removable. So we're able to slide it along out of the way when we're playing the game. And then when we do the panoramic shots, just slide it back across. So we've tried to, as with all of the terrain that we have here as well, try to strike a balance between visual impact and realism, but at the same time striking the balance between trying to be practical and trying to play a game on the board as well. Dioramas and fixed displays look fantastic, but they're not that practical for gaming. And so with the terrain that we have here, and even with these backdrops, trying to make it practical for actually playing games as well. So another option you can go down, I've seen it done before, is the use of mirrors. It was an option we had considered and experimented with. So you put a mirror up this end and you put a mirror up the other end, and then you get like a continuous replication of your terrain going off into the distance. It can look amazing. It's best though for static displays. I've seen it done for modelers in the farming community that do farming displays and miniatures and so on, and they had mirrors set up. It looked really good, but the downside for that is lighting was an issue for us, with light reflecting down and casting shadows across the board, and it proved to be very, very tricky. So in the end went for this backdrop idea instead. The ideas with the backdrops, we can swap them around, so we can change up this one for France. I want more of a conifer forest mountains idea for the Russian front. If you're changing your seasons around, so you want a snowy background if you're going to play snow terrain, and so on. So there should be a full guide for this and a walkthrough on how to put these boards together, where to source the materials from. That will be on channel membership as part of our terrain series. They're exclusive to channel membership. On there already is the guides for much of the terrain that you see here as well. So the roads tutorial, how to make these hedges. The full guide is there. Putting together the hills and the rough ground. And even the new tutorial now for the cornfields. They're all scratch built. And we'll show you how to make all of those terrain sets in our exclusive series on channel membership. That's that development for the channel. I think it's an improvement. Do let us know what you think in the comments section below. But hopefully you'll see this in our battle reports. When we do those musical panning shots, you'll see the kind of shots that we can now get thanks to having these boards on the table. And just to note here, you see the hedge line running across. So just an idea where you can break up the terrain. So a couple of trees and a hedge line running across here. We haven't lost gaming space though. You see there's a recess here, so it hasn't encroached on the size of the table. Those hedges just slot in there, and that just gives us that natural looking break between the board and the table. So the next aspect for our games is more to do with the models that we're using and the units that we use in our games. So as you can see, the first French unit is on the table, and we feature them in an upcoming game with the British Expeditionary Force. We're working on narrative because we're building up for campaigns. We'd love to do a French campaign once the French army gets built up to size. So this is a proposal about AI control, or it's random control. It's not really AI, but it's like random control in the game for units. Just for a bit of narrative, we do an experiment with it in the upcoming battle report that you'll see. So the French are going to take part, this French unit. And what we did in this scenario is we added this unit on as like a feature on the board, as opposed to a full-on unit that the Allies could control. And the way we randomized it, we wanted this unit as like a beleaguered, battered, perhaps morale shattered French unit. We put them onto a terrain piece on the board, and then instead of the player controlling them directly during the game, we put a dice in the pot for the unit, just a different colored dice for this French unit. And then when their dice came up, so in the pot with all of the other units, the dice comes up at a random time. And then instead of choosing your order, we just rolled the order dice. And it gave us a random order for that unit to try and obey. So let's do an order test and so on. So we made them inexperienced. And just to represent like a stranded, lost, perhaps, French unit on the board. The rest of the battle's taking place, and this French unit may be of some help during the game, or it may not during the battle, depending on the dice. So it's like an unreliable allied unit, and just like a nice narrative feature on the table. So the dice comes up for them, and that unit decides to advance. And we were saying that, and this was the discussion, how much randomization do you go for? The limit that we went to is when the advanced dice, say for example, the advanced dice comes up, you have to advance, but the player is able to choose which direction the unit advances to. So there is some kind of sensibleness to it. You don't want to, because if you went down the route of total randomization, you could go like d6 inches and use a scatter dice, and the French unit advances in a random direction. You could end up with some quite realistic results with that, or you could end up where they're in a building, they just walk straight into an ambush or something silly like that. So instead, we left it to the allied player. So Aaron was using the British Expeditionary Force, and an advance order did come up, and he chose to retreat them further away. So you get some measure of control, but you can't put too much weight on the unit to rely on them during the game because it is random. Other times the dice was rolled, a rally comes up, so if they've got pins, they'll clear that. So it's all quite logical stuff. A fire order that came on during the game as well, and there was a target and you was able to shoot. And other times kept rolling down order on them, so you wanted them to do something, and they just kept going down. So it's just to represent the units just not as fully functional as the regular units on the board, but they're there and they could do something during the game. We tried it and we really liked it, but how much do you develop that? Is it realistic? Just wanting to know your feedback on that one. And how far would you develop the rules on that for sort of randomized controlled units on the table? Could you do it with multiple units in a scenario where you've got like an allied force in the game that's not directly attached to yours, and there's sort of unreliable allies. I think it could work quite well, and we really enjoyed using just this single unit in the game. It meant that we could get the French onto the board and have them feature in one of our battle reports. So that's the 2 announcements. We'll push this and develop this, especially as we're building up for our campaigns. We'd love to hear feedback on this one, and if you've had thoughts about this in the past, and how much do you push this? We've tried it with 1 unit, and you can check out the battle report and see how it works in a game of bolt action. As the opposing player, with Aaron getting some control of these, didn't really bother me at all. We were playing narrative, and for us, it just fitted in really well as a great feature on the table. And then the backdrops here, I think they're an improvement and hopefully a much better viewing experience for you in our games going forwards. Do check out the guide for that up on membership. And if you like our terrain, you want to replicate it, these materials, the cost is very, very low. Once we show you the processes, the materials involved, you can get some great terrain for your games of bolt action and beyond. Because this is 28mm terrain, you can then use it for other gaming systems. Napoleonics would work really well, World War One, and so on. Exclusive terrain tutorials on membership. There's a full guide on how to play bolt action as well, and also some campaign battles are up and running on membership as well. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time.